Which is the best mobile gimbal for the new Samsung S23 Ultra? In this episode we'll test 4 gimbals, the Dji Om6, the Zhiyun Smart S2, some new gimbal that they just sent me that claims that it's much better than them, but I never heard of them, and the Hohem iSteady M6, which is one of the best gimbals. I will be testing 4 things: how good is the stabilization walking, how good is the stabilization running, and how easy it is to create 360 degrees. Can the gimbal handle the payload of the phone, because that phone is quite heavy. The phone itself is 234 grams, the case is another 37 grams. In total, that setup it's 280 grams, which is quite heavy. And last but not least, we're gonna test the mobile applications, because on Android phones that is the weakest point. Let's start with the Dji Om6. That is the most popular gimbal out there. But there are some shortcomings here. Balancing and installing the phone is extremely easy. The other huge advantage of the system is the magnetic mount. The weight distribution of the phone is amazing. You don't have any motors visible. With the iPhone I have to install additional weight to the gimbal, because with the ultra-wide angle lens I can see part of the motors inside. With the Samsung S23 Ultra and the Dji Om6 you don't have that issue. The maximum payload of the gimbal is 280 grams and the phone case is 281 grams, so we are already hitting the limit. But let's see it in practice, let's see how good is the stabilization. Okay, the footage looks very stable. Let's do a rotation. Oh, it's extremely easy and nice to rotate it left and right. Okay, that's very pleasant. It's very beautiful road here. Let's try exactly the same, but running. And now let's check the 360 degree. For that test I'll switch to the wide angle lens, because with the telephoto is a little bit harder to be executed. The videos are quite smooth. The biggest disadvantage of that gimbal is how restricted is the tilt axis. You really hardly can rotate it up and down. That means you cannot go low to the ground and pick the gimbal, so you cannot do those beautiful crane shots. But the advantage is that you have that extension pole, and going low to the ground is really easy with that gimbal. Unfortunately, you have to be like a robot if you want to go low to the ground and pick it in the air. So you have to go like down and then extend your hand like that. The biggest advantage of that gimbal is the size. It can fit in any bag, anywhere. It's that small, so if you're a travel content creator, that is the perfect gimbal for you. It will not produce the most cinematic footage, but you can take it with you everywhere and it will not take any space in your bag. Next we have the Zhiyun Smart S2, and this is one of my favorite gimbals. The payload is 300 grams and here we are already not restricted to mount some additional accessories. Right now I have the phone mounted with additional wireless microphone. Balancing it is not a problem. If we need additional charger for the phone, right here on the arm we have additional USB-C port and we can connect the cable and directly charge the phone in that way. The gimbal comes with additional lights you can mount on top and on the bottom, and at night produces very strong shine. You can light your subject very well, which is very important for the mobile phones. You really need a strong light at night so the footage is usable. With that gimbal is already very easy to go low to the ground and high in the air. The tilt axis is not limited and produces amazing cinematic videos. Here is the walking shot. I have the feeling that it's more stable than the Om6 and it's definitely easier to control the gimbal than the Om6. It's very easy to rotate between the trees. It's not that with the Om6 was much harder, but with that gimbal I have more control. Now let's go for the running shot. Here, because we are not limited with the tilt axis, I can tilt the gimbal a little bit and that will make my footage more stable, because I have a little bit of room to wiggle around. Definitely the running felt better with the Zhiyun. Let's try our favorite tree to do a 360 degree rotation. Operating that gimbal feels more intuitive than the OM6. OM6 feels a little bit more robotic. I don't know, can you see it on the camera and feel it, but with that gimbal I feel that I can create any shot I want. The only disadvantage of the Smooth 5 is the size. It's really hard to stuff it in any of my bags, so I always carry that gimbal attached on the outside of the bag. If space is not a problem, that is a better option than the OM6. The next gimbal I just received yesterday, and it's something very interesting. It's a mixture between the Zhiyun Smooth 5 and the OM6 in one. It's called S2 by a company, I'm gonna butcher the name, Aochuan. Tell me with the comments how you read it. That gimbal has a couple of hidden features, and it will be the first test run we're gonna do today. The gimbal looks like Smooth 5, but wait for it! It's like OM6 in one. It's like the ninja of the gimbals. Ergonomically it feels very nice. Something that made me wonder a little bit is the way how you balance the gimbal. You don't have a knob to tighten and untighten, but you have hard stops. You're just moving that part here, and it makes horrible clicking sound. It's definitely something different than the other gimbals. Payload of that gimbal is 300 grams. Time to balance. Click, click, click. Okay, balancing is really easy. It's even much faster than the other gimbals because you don't have to screw and unscrew anything. It can easily go low to the ground and high in the air. You have quite some clearance with that gimbal. It's really good. You have additional fill light like the Smooth 5, but you don't have the possibility to add additional accessories on top like the Smooth 5. Let's see how good is that gimbal in practice. Walking seems quite stable. Rotating left and right, I'll definitely have to check the settings of the gimbal. It's a little bit too sensitive at the moment, so I have to be a little bit more careful when I'm rotating. Okay, it's a little bit harder than the other two, but I didn't touch the motor settings. So straight out of the box, it's a little bit harder to do the orbit shots with that gimbal. Definitely have to adjust it. Before they sent me the gimbal, I checked their website and I found that accessories for the gimbal. It's an extension pole that fits any gimbal. It's ultra cheap, it costs less than 20 euros. The way how you mount it is to the bottom of the gimbal where you screw the legs. And now you screw the legs under. Check how huge is that monster, and I even didn't extend it yet. Ooh, damn, that's really huge. Okay, it goes even like that. Nice. With that Gandalf stick you can definitely create something unique. Finally we came to the most beautiful gimbal of them all, and also the smallest one, the Hohem iSteady M6. But don't let the size fool you, it's one of the most powerful gimbals of all of them. It has a payload of 400 grams. You can mount any accessories, lenses or microphones, and the gimbal will handle it as a champion. It also has a battery life of 18 hours. You can shoot with that gimbal for weeks before you drain the battery. On top of the gimbal you have a small flash, but that flash it's so much more. Check the eye here. So I can place it next to me, turn it on, there is a switch here, show the OK sign, and the gimbal will automatically start tracking me. It is the best AI tracker on any gimbal I've seen till now. There is no other gimbal that has a good tracking for Android phones. So the Hohem iSteady M6 gives you everything what you get with the iPhone and even more. Walking with the gimbal is very pleasant and it's very intuitive. It follows your movement without any problems. The movements are really nice and smooth. It feels very cinematic. I mostly twisted my ankle here before the jump. Now let's do the orbit shot with our favorite tree. Oh, that gimbal is very, very smooth. The movement is amazing. It was very easy to execute that shot. I even did it with the left hand. Let's check what is the situation with the mobile applications. Actually, that is the biggest hurdle of any Android phone. And unfortunately, all of the mobile applications of those gimbals have issues. And the biggest hurdle is that they don't have access to all the lenses. So they're practically unusable. It is very important to be able to control all the functions of the gimbal without touching the mobile application. All the gimbals I showed you today have a dedicated M button, mode button, with which you can circle through the different gimbal modes. And the second most important thing for me is, am I able to control the sensitivity of the motors? Because when I shoot with the ultra wide angle lens, I need a different sensitivity of the motor than when I shoot with the telephoto lens. The gimbals that give me that control are the Dji Om6 and the Hohem iSteady M6. In their mobile applications, you can easily dial the sensitivity of the motors. The other two gimbals also have that functionality, but the Smooth 5S has only two options for sensitivity, and the S2 gives you a lot of control, but it's quite complex. Now, which one should you get? If space is important to you and you're gonna travel a lot, get the OM6. It's not that cinematic, but still stabilizes your footage and doesn't take any space. And the S2 tried to combine everything the other gimbals can do in one. There is one more hidden function right here I didn't have time to talk about. They copied it from the Hohem. And if you want to see what that function does, go check out my full review of the Hohem iSteady M6. It's a really handy feature. If you're after some crazy cinematic videos and you want to mount a lot of accessories to the phone, and you also need a tracking for your Android phone, the Hohem M6 is your best bet. The other thing is that it's much smaller than the Smooth 5S, and that one fits in mostly all bags. That's the best gimbal you can find at the moment on the market. See you in the next one. Bye!